Welcome back. We are here with Zachary Eilers on Shrouded Stories. I'm Denise Montanino. So, thank you so much for joining us today to tell your story about your encounters with the Holy Shroud of Turin.
Well,
Welcome.
thank you. I encountered the Shroud for the first time when I was in high school. I was invited to kind of a series of lectures that were given at my home parish by
Mhm.
just a local parishioner who had studied the Shroud for some time, and just seeing the Shroud up close, like kind of starting to understand some of the details that make it so extraordinary, really changed my life
Mm,
as a junior in high school.
wow.
And yeah, it really um, it gave me kind of really solid ground to say, like, no, like Christ really did rise from the dead. Like this redemption that we
Mhm.
speak about in hymns and in the mass and that I hear in homilies, it really did happen.
Yeah.
And it was just fuel for the conviction in my heart that this was something that was worth very seriously exploring and just seeking to give my whole self to bring to others.
So, take me back to Zachary Junior High when you first encountered. What was going through your mind and on your heart, and how were you able to express that as such a young person? Because I encountered the shroud much later in life, so that's pretty remarkable for me to hear at such a young age. So, can you walk me through that a little bit?
Yeah, so I mean, um, the presentations were not super academic. They were kind of popular level.
Hmm.
But yeah, I was invited. I had a lot of questions. Probably probably maybe more so doubts. Like I had questions, doubts, maybe uncertainties about how sort of how seriously I could take these the claims that the church makes about reality.
Hmm.
I've heard that Cardinal John Henry Newman, now Saint John Henry Newman, recently declared a doctor of the church. He said that you cannot trust, worship, or kind of sincerely love a merely probable God. I'm paraphrasing there, but
Hmm.
he says something similar to that. Is like, if from in my heart, I think God was he was there, but he's sort of merely probable.
Hmm.
And there was a sort of kind of half-heartedness. I was certainly going to mass with my family, but I just there was just I certainly had a curiosity.
Hmm.
I wanted my I wanted to believe that Christ really did rise from the dead, that He really did redeem humanity. But I wasn't quite at the point where I could say, like, wow, no, like I'm certain of this, right? I'm convicted. And the shroud was a critical component of my own kind of the sort of sealing of that conviction at a very formative age in my life, and it completely changed the trajectory of everything I would go on to do and
Hmm.
to seek afterwards.
Yeah. And so we've talked a little bit about you have used the shroud and the holy face in your evangelization of young people now.
Yeah,
So can you tell us a little bit about how you feel like that's changing lives and some of the people that you've encountered?
yeah. Great question. So I served as a missionary with a apostolate in the Green Bay Diocese and near Appleton, Wisconsin. Um, I was served on two different consecutive teams of missionaries, and we would go and we would kind of go into parishes and schools. We would set up typically like a day long retreat in that parish or school, um, and sometimes our retreats would be at our retreat center. But kind of in every retreat, there were some talks, typically witness based. They were telling our own stories,
Hmm.
and then we would have small groups. And during those small groups, I would often print out a small photo of the shroud, both with the positive front of the front man, or actually the positive image of the front of the man on the shroud, alongside the photographic negative of the front of the man on the shroud. And I would just pass it around my small group um, of typically juniors in high school, where
Hmm.
most of our retreats were for confirmation. And many of them, like they would look at it, they would peer at it, they would kind of examine it. Their eyes would kind of come alive with wonder and awe, kind of intrigued by the mystery of this remarkable image.
Hmm.
and several of them even asked to take it home with them. Say, can I
Wow.
take this photo home with me and show my friends? Um, and so, I mean, they had a very similar experience as to what I did. I would often describe some of the more extraordinary characteristics
Hmm.
of the linen and the image, um, and so it changed my heart in this in a very similar way as it changed as I saw it, impact these young people that I was ministering to on retreat. Um,
That's
yeah,
great. That's remarkable. I love that. I think that the shroud, the face of the Holy Shroud, holds so much power just in visualizing it. Like you said, these students were investigating and studying and scrutinizing, and that's such a wonderful place to be, to open that door to really get to know the Lord personally. So I love that story. Is there anything else that you experience in your own personal journey that's related to the Holy Face, or any other, say, like graces that you've experienced?
yeah, that's a great question. I think for me, as I've grown in my as I've matured as a Christian, um, and particularly as a Catholic, I have come to see a greater connection between what I see in the shroud and what I experience and encounter in the Eucharist.
Mm.
Um, at every Mass, Christ, through his priest, says, "This is my body, given up for you," and we see quite literally, an image of a body of a man giving himself up. We see his wounds, we see his pierced side, we see the cap of thorns, the crown of thorns on his head. We see a very kind of sort of living or kind of pictured visual or image of the mystery that is unveiled to us at every Eucharistic liturgy.
Mm.
We see, I would say, an image of the bridegroom of every human soul, the Redeemer of the world, the King of Kings, on his throne of love, in his self offering martyrdom at the very moment of his rise, of his victory. So we see both, his wounds, we see his the what our salvation cost him.
Mhm.
But we also see, the sort of very earliest glimmer of the victory that lies on the other side of that great price, of that great cost, of that sacrifice that he offers in himself. Um, and um, I would go as so far as to say, you know, the shroud, for me at least, is an icon of victory. It's an icon of hope. It is an image of the victory of God over all of the powers that divide and fracture and oppress the human race. All of the powers of darkness, as St. Paul says. Um, and for me, that's extraordinary. So oftentimes on retreat, when I was a missionary, kind of there was maybe some, if there was any apprehension from students, it was kind of like, okay, well, this is really extraordinary, this image, and if it really does mean what I think it means, and that Jesus really did rise from the dead, how do I receive this?
Mhm.
How does my world change now, right? Am I in fear or I'm in hope? And I oftentimes would just try to guide the students, say, this not only, in the shroud we see his wounds, we see mercy in the flesh,
Mhm.
in the man on the shroud. Um, we see a God um, who emptied himself so completely and utterly for the sake of his eternal beloved, and we see the sort of climactic apex of that rescue operation, which he kind of poured himself out for. And so the shroud and the icon of victory and the hope that it brings me, is, this is a message. This is good news
Mhm.
for all the faithful, all Christians, but ultimately all the human race. That death is not the end. Death has been defeated. Life now extends beyond the grave, um, and that God has prepared a home for His children with Himself forever and ever.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I really love your connection between the shroud and the Eucharist. Um, as you mentioned, this is my body, this is my blood. We are able to look at that on the shroud and
Yeah,
really meditate and take that into our hearts. And then I also thought the part about how, what do you do now? What do you do with this information once you've been changed and moved and have seen the impact of visualizing the holy face of our Lord on the shroud? How does that change your life? And I think you've explained so beautifully that idea of coming to your life and your encounters with other people with this great hope and love and joy.
yeah.
So thank you so much for sharing. I think these are such wonderful um, encounters and experiences you've had yourself, as well as you've had with other people that you're now evangelizing. So thank you so much for sharing.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you for your wonderful questions.
yeah, thank you. Hey, Oliver.